Let's practice some more natural dyeing. Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin and I'm a living historian who educates other living historians by teaching old-fashioned sewing skills and copying original garments. We've been working through a series on natural dyeing using an 1815 dyeing manual to just give us some recipes and see what colors we can get. I'm sticking mostly with dyes that are found naturally here in Texas because that's where I live, that's where I do a lot of my teaching and my lectures, so it just makes sense to use natural dyes that are available here. Although a lot of fabrics were going to be imported from elsewhere, so you could have tons of natural dyes that were commercially dyed, even if they were naturally done. So I have swatches somewhere. I think they're in here. I have a ton of swatches that I'm going to need to sort out. And we're not going to do so much fun colors today, or as many fun colors today as we've been doing in the last couple series of this video. Like we did the warm colors, we did cool colors. We are likely going to get some purples today because I'm going to work a little bit with logwood, which can get blacks, grays, and purples. And I decided not to do that last month, even though last month was cool colors video, simply because I didn't want to make 2 logwood dye pots. Logwood's kind of expensive. I only wanted to work with it once. So it looks like we're going to, I just printed out my pages for the little booklet, but I have to figure out where I put that booklet. But we're going to use some oak galls. Logwood, we're going to try mortanting it with iron, and with alum and with tin, and then we're going to use some iron mortanted with alum and a little bit of osage, just one mortanted with both iron and alum. Hopefully should give us a brown. We're going to do mostly browns, blacks, and grays today, so it shouldn't be as pretty of a video, unfortunately, but we still get some good information out of it. 9, it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to need 9 sets. Now remember, so if you're new to this series and you haven't seen any other videos, highly suggest watching those. There's an intro video, and there's where we did the warm colors, like the pinks, a little bit of purples, reds and oranges, and yellows. And then there was the cool colors month, which we did mostly blues and greens. And so we are doing mostly, so I'm using all natural fibers, of course, and we are doing 9 swatches for each dye recipe. So for every recipe that's on a sheet, we're going to do 9 swatches, and that's just to see how different colors and different fibers react to the different dyes. So we're doing 2 silks, one that is a bleached silk that I will find, yeah, there's a bleached silk, and then a like a brownish silk, a little bit more closer in color to natural silk that hasn't been bleached, and then wool flannel, and a little bit of wool flannel, which is unbleached, and that'll be the only wool. And then for linen, we're going to do a bleached linen and an unbleached linen, and then there'll be a bleached cotton, a natural cotton. I'm also going to do a printed cotton to kind of see how the print, if you already have a printed fabric that you're over dyeing, like how would that work with a natural dye? That's what that is. And then a woven cotton, and the difference between a woven and a print, of course, is print is not the same on either side. There's a right and a wrong side. And on a woven, they're both the same because the fabric is dyed before it's woven into fabric. So those are going to be our 9 swatches. I'm going to separate these out. I said there was 10, right? I'm going to have to recount now. I don't remember. And I'm going to do whatever, how many, I think it was 10 swatches of 9. And we'll go ahead, I think, let's go ahead and start with the logwood, I suppose, and the osage. I'll get 2 dye pots. I'll try to only have two dye pots going at a time this time. It got a little overwhelming when I had like 4 dye pots and trying to get everything in exact time, because again, we do have some experiment norms, not in addition to the fabrics themselves all being mortated at the same time, all being mortated for the same amount of time and the same quantities of mortanting. Brief overview of natural dyeing. So you need a couple things to natural dye. Obviously you need the fabric to dye it. Usually you're going to need water. And you're also going to need the dye stuff, but also what's called a mordant. And the mordant is usually a metallic substance, and it just helps the dye adhere to the fabric to make it more of a dye and less of a stain that could be washed out. So, and the mordants do have some say in what color the final fabric ends up being. As usual, I'm going to be using my pots and pans that are not for cooking. They are for dyeing and soap making and candle making and basically all the things that aren't food related. let's go ahead and get to work. I'll kind of give the recipes as I'm putting them into the dye pots. All right, here we are at the stove. So I've decided to start actually with the oat galls, and I'm gonna do sumac because I have it in the box and I haven't done it before. So actually this is sumac and that's oat galls. So both of these are dyes that don't need any mordants because they have a lot of tannins in them that kind of act as a mordant. For both of them, you can do a couple different ways. So I'm using ground up sumac and ground up oat galls, which is going to help me extract the dye a lot faster. And I'm choosing the hot method, but the other method is to do a cold dye, which is essentially you just soak the oat galls for like a week or several days at least in the water, and eventually they will come out. But doing on the stove like this, I can have it done in like 2 to 4 hours. So we are going to do that. And then the oat galls over here, same thing. So just getting it hot as I can get it, and letting that set for about 2-ish hours, and then we'll add the pre-moistened fabric swatches. They just won't be mordanted. And then here we have where my stuff is mordanting. So I'm going to need 4 sets of swatches mordanted in alum, which is what this is. I'm letting it sit for about 45 minutes. And this is 10. I only need the logwood in the 10, so that's only 1 swatch set. And once we get these dyed, and of course the 2 that are going to be in the pots that are already on the stove, then that should be it for today. That was not as wet as it should be. Let me wet that, because that's not quite as saturated as it ought to be. The fabric swatches aren't totally saturated and pre-moistened. There's a good chance they won't take the dye evenly. So make sure that's done. I have to pull them apart just so that they're not, just so the dye can get there all evenly throughout the whole swatch. I'm not entirely sure the sumac's doing anything, so we'll watch it after about an hour. Alright, that can go right into there. And we'll check on that about an hour. Alright, I pulled off the oat galls. Sumac is still going because it hasn't really changed, and it's been about 2 hours. But I got a decent-ish brown on, especially the wools and the silks on the oat galls, so I just took them out. So this is the logwood. We're going to start with the alum mordanted swatches. And I know you can't really see in there, but it's a really beautiful reddish purple. Oh, or just a purple. Fantastic. This is going to be our nice purple. I think our 10 should end up being purple as well. But I've never actually used logwood because it's very expensive for a dye, so it's not something I typically use. It's also not something that's, as far as I know, native to Texas. So it's not something I typically use. But this one, just pull out some swatches. I mean, they're a little gray, but really not much. It hasn't been worth the effort so far. But the water started up here and it's boiled down quite a bit. And there are the oat gall swatches. So brownish. Not fantastic, but brownish. Alright, it's been about 20 minutes. And try to fish out all. Oh, that is dark. Putting them on the lid so I don't burn myself. But I gotta figure out how to get all the swatches without getting rid of the dye pot yet. And then we'll set in the 10 mordanted ones for the same amount of time. And then I'll add some iron to the dye pot. And we'll do it all again for a 3rd time. Because we're using 3 sets for the logwood. 10 mordanted. Just go and stick those in there. Same amount of time. Next one I decided to work on was the Osage, which goes into a baggie. That way I don't get Osage shavings in the swatches. It just pulls right out. Very easy. The iron goes in the pot as well. And then of course the swatches. And that'll sit for 20 minutes. And then of course I have the one that is just iron dyed. That's just going to go in a pot as well. And once they're all dyed, then I get to put them onto my towel, which is my favorite part of the process, because then I get to see them all together all at once, which is a lot of fun. And the final step is going to be getting all those swatches ironed out very neatly, and then I can trim the edges, because I did make the swatches a little bit bigger than what they needed to be. That way I can have clean edges in my book. And then I get to staple each swatch in after ironing and trimming. And that's about it. This one was a lot of fun to do. I got some really fun colors with it. Just because of the logwood. Otherwise it's, kind of boring colors. And I didn't get the black I wanted, which sumac was supposed to give me a black, but it barely did anything. So obviously I missed a step somewhere, but I think that's a great thing to do for next time we do this type of project, just to focus on some blacks. I also, of course, want to focus on some greens next year, but that's going to be next year's project. I think this is great to start off with. Alright, we don't have a lot of pages today. Let's put these in alphabetical order. Sure, I should have some logwoods that all go in one place. Okay, so iron is going to be the first one. I still think the first month was the best month. And then oak gall should be here, right before Osage. And then I have just the Osage with iron. So I did iron here, Osage with iron in the dye bath, but I did Osage, did the alum first, and then I did the iron. You can see it is different. You got more olivese with just the iron, but the alum brightened it up, which makes a lot of sense, actually. I missed the L's for that. I'll come back to that. Osage and sumac is going to be the last one. Got some tans. I did not get a black, but I think that's part of what the iron liqueur is supposed to be, so we'll come back to that. Right, for the matter. So logwood with alum, iron and tin, so it's already in alphabetical order. So that's almost as good of a purple as we got with the cochineal and alum. And this is, obviously that's indigo. So this is like a grayer indigo. I almost got black with that. That's like a smoky black, I would call that, or a smoke gray. Very dark gray. So now I have, this is going to be what this one is. I might come back and do some of the iron liquor stuff, but this is going to be my finished booklet for this dye situation. So next year, I'd like to do the series again, but maybe do 1860s, an 1860s dye manual or an 1850s one to see how the dyes change. I have like 5 of these books, so we can like do a time period a year or something and just do different colors. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So let's just kind of go through it. I guess I should probably, yeah, that's the front page. This is what they all started as, and they all are in order. So bleach silk is always going to be the first one over here. The wool's always going to be on this side on the top. So you can kind of see how it changes. There's a natto with alum. A natto with tin. I think if that was a little bit more solid and not as splotchy, that would be a really pretty orange. There's that cochineal with alum. Cochineal with alum, but plus my water, because apparently our water is weird. Cochineal with cream of tartar. Give a nice like baby pink on that silk. Cochineal with iron. Give a lot of those sad colors. I really do love that. I think it's called Dove Gray. It's great on silk. Cochineal with iron, where the iron just blotched. I think what happened is I should have let the iron dissolve. I did better this time around because I don't usually work with iron because I'm not trying to get super sad colors. I want the pretty colors. So I don't usually work with iron. And I think, and what I did was just dump some iron in and immediately put the swatches in. And I think that's just iron deposits. I think what I need to do is let it a little bit dissolve in that hot boiling water first. And I think I did better this time. So there's my tin with cochineal. Love my flag red still. Great pinks. Like that is a hot pink right there. Super nice. More cochineal with tin plus my water. Kind of got squished a little bit. Alright, and then some purple-ish things. So cochineal with indigo. Remember our indigo dye pot ended up very dark, much darker than it ought to have been. Because apparently my scale was not working. And I looked at it and said, that looked like way more than 50 grams of indigo. And I didn't double check it, and I ought to have double checked it. So next time we'll do a lighter indigo vat and hopefully get some not as blotchy colors. Because a lot of this was not wanting to let it sit in the cochineal for very long. And not letting it sit in indigo very long, whatever the second color was. Only because I didn't want it to become so oversaturated. Cochineal with Osage, another great red. I love that color. Indigo vats, just one dip, it's a little splotchy. 2 minutes. And this is a single 10-minute dip. And this is my 2 10-minute dips. And to go back to cochineal, a lot more blotchy. This is 10 minutes, that was 2 minutes of indigo, and then cochineal. This is 10 minutes of indigo and then cochineal. A little darker. That's the closest I think, well no, this one's the closest I got to black. This is 30 minutes in indigo vat. That's a very dark, dark color. This is me trying to do green. Again, didn't work because my indigo vat was way too dark to get a nice green. Just didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. So I think next time I'm going to focus on getting greens, oranges, and blacks. Those are my 3 colors I'm going to really try to focus in on. So I'll do a lot more research. Here's one we did today. There's our logwood, so that's kind of a indigo-y purple. There's with the iron, so it's a little bit sadder, a little bit more on the gray side. My best purples. I really love that. I have so much of that woven silk, like that plaid silk that's in that really ugly color right now. I don't know, because logwood's kind of expensive, but I really love that. So I might be doing that again just for a project or two to get it to that nice purple. And here's our madder with alum. Love that color. I like the peachy colors. Madder with alum with vinegar. Madder with iron. Madder with tin. It's a great orange. Probably the best oranges that we got. Oak galls. I actually kind of like that. I like these colors. Osage with alum. This does not look, I don't know how it appears on screen, but it does not look like it could be achieved with natural dyes. Like if someone showed me this without that, I would have been like, I don't know about those colors. But yeah, that is totally appropriate. Sage with cream of tartar, a lot duller. Sage with iron. Got some good browns and like nutty browns. Another Osage with iron. But this one didn't have the alum, so it's just darker. Osage with tin. I think this is, I said this the first time. This is the worst of the Osages. Like I like the tin with all of the other dyes, but with the Osage I prefer the alum. It's just a lot brighter. It's probably the best greens that I got were the Osage first and then the indigos. So like that one. I think that one's pretty decent. Now I got a good green. It just was only in yarn because I got that beautiful green, and that was on a medium blue, not a dark blue, which is why it looks so nice and even and pretty. And there's our sumac. So all in all, I mean, it's a very nice little dye book. I've taken it to a couple of classes so far, and I give people an idea of what it's like and what things look like. And I'm looking forward to maybe adding to it and doing another booklet next year. So that ought to be fun. I'm going to look into some really good dye manuals. I think as they go on in the 19th century, things start to make a little bit more sense. And the way they write makes more sense to me. So maybe it'll be a little bit easier for me to do it. And I don't know, we may not do 3 next time. We may just do 2, like a warm and then a warm cut. One with warm and one with cool colors, and then just do the iron in between. So I don't think we need to do 4 months out of the year every year being dyeing. Maybe 2 or 3 will be fine. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe to the channel, click that little bell notification so you're notified anytime I upload a new video. And as always, have a fantastic week, and I'll see you back here in the next video.